What's up YouTube? It's Instant Dreamer here, and today I want to talk about a dream that I had in 2023 about UFOs, fallen angels, and Nordic aliens. But this dream is going to be about a dream that I had in 2023 about UFOs, fallen angels, and what they are and Nordic aliens. Now, pretty much what happened in the dream was I was in this next to this barbershop in my town. In my hometown in New Zealand, we have this old-fashioned 1800s barbershop that it's very iconic, it's very close to the 1800s kind of style, and I was checking it out. I was just sitting there, I was standing there, and it was during like a sunset or something. It was like dusk. It was sunset, and it was like this weird dreamy haze. I saw all these like homeless people laying down. I saw this like one woman who was like dressing up like a hippie or something. Dressing up somewhat revealingly, but in like a kind of hippie way. And she looked all decrepit and skinny and drained, and she looked very haggardly and old, and she looked like she was in the 60s. She looked like she was 63, and pretty much she was just lying down there, face down, unresponsive, unconscious. And then I saw this tall paramedic with curly hair, looked like he was Northern Indian, like a light-skinned Indian man. He had a smile, he had very warm brown eyes. In fact, they were some of the warmest, brownest eyes ever. He had a very reassuring, comforting smile. And he was basically like, there were all these homeless people just lying down like they were asleep or something. And he was like raising them, grabbed their hands, he took them up, and he was pretty much raising them from their slumbering. I somehow knew that was a metaphor for like resurrecting the dead. And pretty much this paramedic guy was like raising them up. And they were really happy, and they were pretty much really cheerful. They were pretty much like, thanks for helping me. And I was seeing the woman, I was wondering what was happening to her. And I talked to the tall paramedic, and I asked him, what are you gonna do? Are you gonna help this woman? That's what I asked him. He said, no, this woman needs the ambulance. Or he said like, this woman needs the ambulance. Interestingly enough, there's an ambulance in the background right now. Where I live, there's lots of ambulances, fire trucks, police cars all the time. But anyway, I was talking to this guy, and then he said that, and then it cuts like a news report. And I was like, I think it was like a TV in a black room or something. I don't remember. Saying this woman who was 23 years old, the woman who was lying down, was caught starving herself to death due to fasting. And a UFO, she began to fast after a UFO told her to fast. So pretty much in my dream, it got imparted to me knowledge-wise. This woman was a New Age practitioner who was fasting due to New Age beliefs, like she was doing a cleanse, and she saw a UFO which told her to do it somehow, perhaps psychically. And then I saw this like strange blonde man who was shirtless with nothing but a plaid cloth around his genitals, with blonde hair, sitting in a meditative position, like a lotus position or like a Indian style meditation position, behind a wall of dirty glass that was rainbow colored. It was like dirty glass in some parts, rainbow colored, and it got in kind of like the information somehow got like put into my head somehow, telling me this man was a Nordic alien, and that Nordic aliens are fallen angels, and that the reason why people who practice a New Age religion or do crystals or like pray to archangels or anything like that, who do like New Age practices, the reason why they're like so delusional and nutty, and they're such nut jobs, and they're such paranoid kind of people, is because under the influence of fallen angels, and they're being driven to insanity by fallen angels. So pretty much what the dream is trying to tell me is that Nordic aliens, specifically Nordic aliens, I don't know if other aliens fit this category, but Nordic aliens are fallen angels. And that the reason why New Age people go insane, why hippie kind of people go insane, is because of angelic influence by fallen angels that are driving them basically mentally insane and making them starve themselves to death by fast. So if somebody starves himself to death by fasting or does any other kind of unhealthy or dangerous practices due to their New Age beliefs, especially if they're influenced by other beings to do so, like they have visions of such, being influenced by fallen angels. And I basically believe that these UFO religions, they were started by fallen angels, and these UFOs that we see, they're not aliens, man. They are fallen angels. They are fallen angels or demons actually, pretending to be aliens to try and influence us. So, if you're watching this, and if you see a Nordic alien, do not trust them. I'm gonna explain this more in another video, but basically what's going on is that in the Old Covenant, which is out the Old Testament, and in the Torah, basically there was this ritual called the scapegoat ritual where one, if I remember correctly, one goat would be kept by the priests and basically, like, I think, like, either killed or let free and would just basically be, like, kind of kept alive, I guess. And that was supposed to be a good goat. And then there's, like, this bad goat, which would carry all the sins of Israel and would be let off into the wilderness by a priest. And it would be in the desert, I think, to meet Azazel, who in the KJV is called a scapegoat, but in other versions is called Azazel in Hebrew. And Azazel is basically just a big goat man, so that's where all this Baphomet stuff comes from. It comes from the fact that Azazel was a goat, and that Satan's followers were seen as goats. So basically, Satan was seen as Azazel in the New Testament, and they understood that goats meant bad. And Jesus Christ, when he talks about the goats and the sheep, he was basically flipping the metaphor to mean that the good goat was not just a symbol of, like, the good within Israel. It was also a symbol of, like, a symbol of the good followers, of the good people in the world, the good people within the duality of the good, within the duality of good and evil, and the goats will be the bad people within the duality of good and evil, the followers of Satan and the followers of Jesus slash God. So Jesus changed them from sheep to goats, and was basically trying to say they were human followers. Now there's more to it, and I'll need to make another video to explain this, but that's what's going on. Basically in the 70s and 60s and 80s, there were these like beings from this like galactic federation, the so-called galactic federation, called Nordic aliens. They're basically these big blonde dudes wearing like strange blue uniforms similar to like Star Trek, and pretty much they are these like angelic looking beings who are both male and female, mostly male, who like wear like blonde hair, and basically they claim to come from some advanced ascended kind of civilization of aliens and claim they want to help out humanity. Well, I just gotta say, these Nordic aliens, they're not your friends, they're fallen angels. I specifically think they're watchers. Something else interesting that happened afterwards. Like, in fact, I think that this exact alien, fallen angel, blonde person I saw in my dream was Azazel. Azazel from the Book of Enoch and from Leviticus. After I had the dream, I had this like thought in my head telling me that the alien I saw was Azazel. And after I had this dream, I got influenced to write this Azazel person into the story I'm writing. And pretty much in the story, his name is Azarius, which I will put on the screen. And pretty much I think that somehow he got released from his prison in Juridel. In the Book of Enoch, it says 200 watchers got in prison, but one of them got away. Basically, Michael imprisoned 199 of these 200 angels, and Raphael tried to catch one of them, but he basically got away. So Azazel's still alive. I think it's possible he was Prometheus. It's possible that another watcher got released because of Greek mythology. This god who got imprisoned on a mountaintop got freed by this guy called Hercules. The point is, basically, these Nordic aliens are fallen angels and you shouldn't trust them. And I believe this UFO disclosure thing is a way to get us to believe in these fallen angels who are going to give us some kind of advanced technology, and they're going to create a new world order. In fact, I believe that the dragon in the book Revelations are the fallen angels mentioned in the Bible, because if you look at who the seraphim are in the Bible, they seem to be like dragons, and Satan himself, like Satan who tempted Jesus, and Satan who's going to create a world government, is called a dragon who deceived people. So I believe these Nordic aliens are fallen angels, and pretty much are going to create a world government. Now, interestingly enough, Mike Griffiths, End Time Dreams, he had a dream that told him these fallen angels are from another planet. They're basically from another planet, and they have like an entire civilization, and due to that, they pretty much visited the Earth. So pretty much in space, there's another planet where these guys live on. And I believe it's the same Nordic aliens, fallen angels, that live on this planet. I believe they basically come in spaceships to try and come to our Earth, and they're gonna try to give us advanced technology and make us worship them and believe in them. If you look at like aliens and sci-fi, science fiction and stuff, there's always this like progenitor race that gave us tons of advanced technology, and in conspiracy circles, they're called the Anunnaki. In the Book of Enoch, there were these aliens, angels, there were 200 angels who, they descended to Earth, they gave us advanced technology they were not supposed to. They taught us sorcery and occultism. They basically taught us to worship them when they weren't supposed to do so. And due to that, Enoch got called to try to get him to repent. The Nephilim were created, the Eliod were created, and the world was flooded. So the reason why the world was flooded back when it was because of these angels that were trying to mess with us, and also because of these evil nations, because humanity had become wicked. What's going on is, I think that these fallen angels from the Book of Enoch are going to come back and try to re-establish their dominion on Earth, and I think that this dream is a warning for us not to trust them. Jesus says that it'll be like the days of Noah, and like the world will be like distracted, wicked, or whatever. And while people see this as like people being ignorant to the end times, I believe it means that the aliens, that it's gonna be like just like Noah's Ark. Pretty much, we're gonna have advanced technology. We're gonna have a flood, except this time it's gonna be, the world's gonna be destroyed in fire, and we're gonna be tricked by these like fallen angels and these demons again. And although I believe that there are like real aliens, I believe that there are actual aliens like me and you, like flesh and blood aliens. I believe that most UFOs we see, pretty much all of them, and like grey aliens and stuff, they're either fallen angels or demons or a little bit of both. But we're being deceived into thinking that they are, well, other kinds of beings due to propagandistic sci-fi. And don't get me wrong, I love sci-fi, I really like sci-fi, but all of this stuff is basically designed to trick us. And people say it's going to be a fake alien invasion, but I was going to say, it doesn't matter if it's fake or not, we can't trust them. The way they're going to deceive us, and there's going to be like some kind of new world order. And I had another dream saying that like the police are going to arrest people for having prophetic dreams. I think this is going to be part of the reason why, because basically people are going to like realize that we're going to be given details, like random people are going to be given like details about the new world order and about these fallen angels that are trying to trick us, and our governments who are working with like occultists of Illuminati and Freemasons, they're going to like not support it, so they're going to try to arrest people. The last thing I have to say is I believe that this person, this paramedic man in my dream was Jesus. I think it was Jesus Christ, or whoever Jesus is in heaven. The reason why I think so was because he had a really calming, warm presence. He seemed like he was trying to help us out, and he was doing like the same thing that Jesus Christ did in the New Testament. Basically, in the New Testament, Jesus was resurrecting people from the dead, he was healing the sick, and he was trying to help people out. And in this dream, this man was resurrecting people from the dead, but it was like the homeless people were like asleep or like unconscious or something, and he was like raising them up. And Jesus Christ compared dead people to people who were like asleep. He believed they were basically asleep in a way. And also, he said that like he was like basically resurrecting the people from the dead. He was doing like the same thing that Jesus Christ did, and he was doing it without me even knowing it was Jesus, because I later on figured out it was Jesus. And although I don't know if that's what Jesus Christ actually looked like when he was on earth, I think it's possible that he actually looked like this, that he looked like he was Northern Indian. There's many Middle Eastern people that kind of look like Indians, and also it is possible that Jesus Christ went to India. In fact, there was this Shroud of Turin which showed that Jesus Christ was like 40% Indian. I don't think the Shroud of Turin was actually Jesus' burial cloth, but if it is, then that proves it. It's really interesting that I saw like something so similar to Jesus Christ, because I don't even think Jesus is God. I don't even pray to Jesus. I don't think Jesus Christ is God, yet I've seen in my dreams, I've seemingly interacted with Jesus Christ himself. I think that it shows us that Jesus Christ is trying to help us against the aliens, and he wants to help us against the aliens. It's basically he wants to warn us that these fallen angels are aliens, because he knows that they're going to try to trick us and deceive us. And it's like, I guess Jesus Christ is trying to fight against him. The way that Michael was trying to fight against Satan, and the way that Michael the angel will try to fight for us, I guess Jesus Christ is going to fight for us. Somewhere up there he's trying to stop us from these fallen angels. And I guess that's why he's spreading Christianity. That's why he's telling us about these end times, I guess, because he wants to help us against these fallen angels. And I think that there's a very specific reason why it's the Nordic aliens and not some other kind of alien race that are seen as these fallen angels. I think it's because they're going to have a very big role in this. And I think that this Galactic Federation they're going to talk about is a real organization, but it's not like some like Star Wars kind of organization or some sci-fi Star Trek kind of organization. I believe that it's the league of these supernatural kind of beings. That's what I think it is. If you're watching this, don't trust anybody who says that these Nordic aliens are friends. They're not our friends, they're our enemies. And don't trust anybody who goes and tries to say that any of these aliens are trying to help us out. None of them are trying to help us out, because if they're just aliens, then why do they have supernatural powers? It doesn't make sense. And don't trust any UFO sightings. If you get abducted by a UFO, say in the name of Jesus, I rebuke you, and ask them what they think of Jesus. If they talk about Jesus negatively, then they're not from God. John says, any spirit that does not confess that Jesus Christ came in the flesh is of Antichrist spirit. That doesn't mean what people think it means. It means people who say that like Jesus Christ is nothing more but is not a flesh and blood being. That's what it means. Pray to God and Jesus to try to ask you for help against these alien beings, and to reveal to you what is going on with them. That's all I have to say. I think this is a very important dream to consider and ponder on. Something else I forgot to say was that when this paramedic being who seems to be Jesus was talking about the ambulance part, I think that what he meant by that was he was meaning that this woman was under some spiritual corruption, that she would need more help than just his help. Basically, he was trying to say that this job was like, maybe not like above his pay grade, but basically he would need God's assistance as well as his other brethren's assistance to help this woman. With these other homeless people, they were under some kind of spiritual corruption or death, or they were dead. They just weren't going very well, but Jesus Christ was able to help them out with his own power, his own authority. When Jesus Christ was on earth, he was using the power of God to cast out demons and to raise the dead and to do that kind of stuff and to like tell the truth to people. He was ministered onto by spirits. But I guess when it comes to some people are so far gone, they're so spiritually corrupted that Jesus Christ needs to do like more to try to cast them out. As Jesus Christ said, about these demons. This type goes on out only by prayer and fasting. Now, Jesus Christ wasn't talking about this kind of specific thing. The problematic that like people have when it comes to like Christianity and using the the scriptures of the Bible to try and go and solve problems is that the Bible doesn't talk about everything there is, and it's foolish to rely on just the Bible. There's more to this world than just the Bible. For example, with the book Revelation, the mark of the beast is supposed to be an RFID chip, but it's obvious that there's going to be more that happens to this new world order than we think, because it was written like 2,000 years ago. So same thing here, but like even Jesus kind of admitted that some things that like some demonic possessions and like spiritual like afflictions and stuff, or like spiritual problems that people have, were like above like just his pay grade. Were like they were above his pay grade. Not to say that he can't do it, but they were above simply just like trying to cast demons out. Like some demons, some spiritual problems require more than just like cast them out in Jesus' name. So like sometimes you need to do more. And with this woman, she obviously needed more than just like Jesus' help. It's obvious that she needed like God's help and like I guess like the other angels' help. So yeah, I think that's what it means, and I think that's what he meant by the ambulance. But I think like Jesus Christ wants to help us out against these angels, but he needs to get God's power. Because I think Jesus Christ was doing it through God's power, and he had to ask God for more power. But that's kind of what I think it means. It seems like he actually cares about helping us out. He seemed very helpful, caring. So I think Jesus Christ is trying to help us out against these UFOs, and I think he's gonna try to help save us from these UFOs. Like I don't even think Jesus is God. I think he's a human, but maybe he's more. You never know. Something else I wanted to say before I forgot was I was looking through some prophetic dream videos, and I saw this like picture of this fallen angel that kind of looked like Lucifer, like the statue of Lucifer, and he had like wings. He looked like a young, really like handsome dude, kind of like a teen heartthrob. And kind of something I believe is that the Renaissance depiction of angels, of fallen angels that we see are not actually as inaccurate as we think. Like people think that they're inaccurate and they just come from like, random pictures and all that kind of stuff. People think it just comes from the Renaissance, but I actually believe that it comes from understanding of what fallen angels look like. Basically, I believe that the people who made these images of Lucifer and these other fallen angels and made them look like handsome, like homosexual dudes, I think they must have somehow known that fallen angels like to take the countenance and the appearance of otherworldly dudes who are really like handsome. Now, the fallen angel I saw in my dream, Azazel, I believe that Azazel is like a Nordic alien, and the Nordic aliens I saw, they weren't like handsome homosexual dudes. I think all these like paintings we see of fallen angels with wings, like muscle-bodied bodies and like long hair. I think that's actually that's a depiction of what like fallen angels look like. Basically, I think it's based off a real depiction. I think that somehow these people got abducted by these UFOs, or they were communing with these kind of people in the past, and they saw what they look like, and they basically made them kind of look like this. Like I basically think that angels actually take this form, and I think that the Renaissance depiction was based off this. Basically, I think that somehow they knew what the fallen angels look like, and I think that like the people who came up with these things must have seen like a Nordic alien, or knew what a Nordic alien looked like somehow by some means, either by seeing them or through written or oral accounts. And I think that the Catholic Church somehow knew that they were like Nordic aliens. Maybe they communicated with them, I don't know, but I believe that the depiction of angels is shirtless dudes who have long hair is not as inaccurate as we think. I'm not saying that it isn't deceitful in some way, it isn't a pop culture kind of thing. What I'm saying is that I think that the idea of what an angel looks like comes from our encounters of the Pleiadians, the Nordic aliens, and these are being UFOs in the Middle Ages. So I think that these beings, they roam around the world like UFOs, and they go and like abduct people, and they have sex with them. There's actually like cults, like the realist cult, and I think Om Shinrikyo and other collective consciousness cults, where the women are not allowed to have sex with any dudes except for the cult leader, or in some cases they're not allowed to have sex with anybody but these like alien extraterrestrial beings. And if aliens and extraterrestrials are fallen angels, and the Book of Enoch says that fallen angels slept with these women, then there's cults. Then that means those cults might be letting fallen angels sleep with a woman. So I believe that that's what's going on. If I can find pictures, I'll show them. If not, then you can search them up. I might just make this into a segment of the video I write stuff down, but if not, then I want to talk about something else. Actually, other proof that fallen angels, they resembled Nordic aliens in Greek mythology. If you look at Apollo and the other Greek gods, they're all shirtless, handsome, clean-shaven, slightly effeminate homosexual dudes with like muscles and all that kind of stuff. And Apollo is like the best example. Apollo and Adonis are the best examples of it. I know Adonis is not actually a Greek god. For anyone who's in Greek mythology, he's a good example. I think that potentially ancient Greek example of homoerotic practices of the Greeks and the way they make dudes look so weird comes from these kind of fallen angel practices. I had another dream revealing that the reason why the ancient Greeks put coins in the dead of their mouths is because fallen angels and demons like feed off the chemicals in there. Well, what if they told them other things? There's this ancient cult called the Hivites, which is some woman claims to be part of. It just said that their bloodline goes back to Alexander the Great, who conquered the world. Well, he conquered the known world. And also in Greek mythology, it says that many people were descended from these Greek god beings. So it seems like the Book of Enoch was somehow aware of that. And although I think the Book of Enoch was probably not written originally when they say it was written, I think that they must have figured out that Greek mythology and these other religions were about these figures and they were trying to expose it. So yeah, that's what I gotta say, man. Don't be deceived by these Nordic alien people. They're not good.